Hello everyone, Linker here, and today we'll overview one of the hardest endgame campaign solutions that got me to chapter 34. This solution demonstrates how to handle endgame disadvantages with fragmentation, substitutes, synergies, all the good things we like to see at close to minimum power replays. This is most relevant in the endgame, though even in the very early game you may find yourself with a disadvantaged carry. One of the things before I dive into the sets is look at the enemies. Many wielders, many healers across all sets. This is what makes it so much harder than a normal endgame multi-fight stage, because you have to use heroes that aren't good against wielders and healers simply because you run out of counters after 2 or 3 sets. So let's overview those advanced sets. For set 1, most replays against this set are gonna feature Wielder Sophia, but since we lack some of them, we'll need to fragment and substitute, and I'm gonna explain. People use Source plus 30 or Lorsan, and rarely even Namora, instead of Fawkes having Leica take the damage. This means that against the Namora Arden Tasi Athalia team, you're running against the clock. Very CC heavy team, sustainable and damaging. This means that, for me, losing Leica's damage without a proper compensation, not having the Source or the Namora on the team, and I'll explain that in just a second, will make this stage very hard to beat. Tasi is also complicated to handle, as you all probably know, teleporting to damage like she's a carrier or something, right? So this is why Fawkes is optimal. Fawkes replacing this Namora slot here and allowing me to fragment this set to handle Saurus's low signature item level is bringing protection and CC immunity to the team in his signature item. He's also gonna capture Tasi, he's gonna deal some damage, enabling the rest of the set. He's gonna enable Leica's buffs, enable Sophia's aura and damage, and also is gonna let Source stay alive long enough with the defense to compensate for his lower SI level healing. Lastly, is also gonna enable air and carry. For the next set, we're going to look at set 2. Now, set 2 is pretty interesting. This is the one that was the least consistent. People use heroes that I don't have here, like Mizoth. So, static backline would usually allow for Gwyneth, if not for Gorvo. Gorvo consistently invading, you don't want to waste your Gwyneth or these sets that are super good when they aren't as consistent in the late game. You also prefer to use the consistent sets later to fail fast. This is why Talene, for example, is also less preferable in this second set. Khazard wouldn't handle the aggression, which means that this is the best slot for niche set or a disadvantaged set, because like Ferael or Daemon running into a bunch of wilders, naturally it's gonna be inconsistent, the most inconsistent set I've had in these 5, scoring at about 30% win rate after buffing Daemon, which I plan to do anyways. Brutus is gonna be here playing his OG release role. Niche but good hero dealing with Kaz's dodge and tanking the aggression for long enough. Thorn as a second tank working defensively despite his disadvantage, which we like in this channel. I used to like him a lot, I still do. Maybe I'll make a guide about him, explaining him further. He's used to handle enemies while reflecting damage and keeping the backline safe even after his resurrect CC lands off. Next, Nora pulling Ira, crucial, and not anyone else, as every single Ira ult could end my team. I'd rather handle enemy carries and stabilize, fighting a war of attrition against Namora than having to handle Ira's ults all the time. Ferael and Daemon countering the enemies like they do best, having them protected in this niche set. Ferael, despite being a Draven, countering the healing, and Daemon just being a very strong overall hero, allowing me to get rid of this set and go forward for those better sets where I have better heroes. These heroes really carry their weight, each position has so much value in it. For the third set, static backline, no invades, say no more. Gwyneth is here, special Gwyneth set though just for you. Note how Estrilda's initial knockback deals with Aaron. Keep in mind, in PvP, Aaron's signature items haste would not allow this, but in campaign it has its own rules. Estrilda giving backline protection as she takes care of Aaron just long enough. If you're very perceptive, there's another principle that's being violated here. Khazard freezes enemies and crits. Why isn't he behind Arthur, freezing more? The reason is he's not used here as a carry. Instead, we're using him for as a Pogian bonus as targeted CC. And the targeted is Aaron and his backline. Khazred needs to keep this backline busy for about 4 seconds to consistently allow Gwyneth to do her thing, wiping the stage at roughly 4 seconds pace. For the fourth set, this isn't Talene. The god comp is Fragmented, but that's not the strongest enemy set either, so we can handle it. A creative substitute I've came looking up with the replays, exploiting how the enemies are very vulnerable to CC. Nakaruru is going to replace Talene here since Aziz is going to group the enemies effectively and Mihira charming them consistently. The enemies are not too tanky, so this works. Another thing I learned from the replays and probably wouldn't have come up with otherwise. Nakaruru has a unique role here. While she can side carry in most replays, her role is to CC Tasi and Belinda for long enough so that the Celis hypos get going. Otherwise, Tasi banishes the wrong enemies at the wrong time and she can mess with your team. Having Mihira carry is pretty slow, so keeping Naka alive is nice. However, if you do resort to those slower tactics, keeping them for later is optimal in the end game, allowing you to fail fast and retry more to get lucky and make progress. For the fifth set, I bet you haven't seen the synergy before, or so you think. Well, this is Celis Graveborn, let me tell you. It just has Tasi. Tasi and Athalia together doing most everything that Ferael does, while Wukong substitutes the many floras I've seen used here, dishing slows where they are needed. This is my own creative touch here. Talene Orthos, a crucial endgame combo. While it is much harder to obtain the Mauler Graveborn combo in set 2, Talene and any spiraling tank like Orthos, like Wukong or Saurus in some sets, spiral very consistently, delivering the win that we need after we've paid all the way here handling those disadvantages. So as you can see here with the set, it's gonna just stall long enough to hand us the win that we needed, eventually getting me through what I think is the hardest set on the way to chapter 34. Personally, was pretty difficult for me after I've been at 33-60 was relatively easy. Getting me into this real late game, maybe I'll make a video rant about chapter 34, really one of those more difficult chapters I've faced, kind of like a 31-4 syndrome. And with that, I've been Linker, and thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, what other video ideas you have. I really do listen to them. Most of my ideas are coming from you, and thank you.